And now, to honor America, please join in the singing of our national anthem. Representing the three-time Stanley Cup champion New Jersey Devils, Arlette.
I feel like I'm at a game. Oh my gosh. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Happy Devils, 1 game winning streak, 2 points, or no, 2 game point streak. I'm screwing it up. Met my quota Sunday. I am your host, Sam Wu, here with Scott, John, also known as Scotty, Beer Baron, and Shorts Guy. This is the Let's Go Devils podcast, season 3, episode 11, titled Look on the Bright Side. Look on the bright side of things. You could watch us on Facebook Live, facebook.com/Let's Go Devils podcast. You can find us on Twitter, Periscope, at Let's Go Devils Pod. You can find us on YouTube Live, on our YouTube channel, Let's Go Devils. Also, you can find us on Twitch. We're starting to gain steam with 5 viewers now. Twitch.com/Let's Go Devils podcast. Guys, take it away.
It's all that positive publicity that we give Twitch. That's where we're getting all those followers from, I'm telling you. Boys, we got to win. We got to win.
We won a game. So, it's about
we won a game. Yeah. Before we get anything kicking off, I need to ask, because we've been talking about this for the last couple of days. Taylor Hall's comments on the boos from the crowd. Shorts Guy, I'm very curious to see, because you and I kind of were talking about this a little bit back and forth. What is your opinion about what he said? And then what's your opinion about after he scored that goal? Even though they lost to the Flyers, he scored that at the time go-ahead goal and then jumped right up and put his hand to his ear. What is your opinion about that whole situation?
Well, I don't necessarily disagree with him. If it's the end of a game and the Devils, lose a lead, you can boo. And if you're fighting, if you got your fans against you and the other team against you, it's definitely tough. Booing at the end of the game is one thing, but booing while on a power play is a whole other thing. You should, even if they, allow a goal right before, but you're on the power play, booing on a power play is reserved for when the other team's on a power play, not your team. But if they do end the game in piss poor fashion, you do need to show your displeasure after multiple lead losses, which lead to the end result being a loss.
Dude,
So
they've had the lead in the third period in 7 of 8 home games this year, and they've lost 5 of them.
It's upsetting.
That's not good.
It's upsetting. I mean, I saw that happen against Arizona. You were there and saw that happen against Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's not fun to see because and then we were both there against Winnipeg opening night. Those highs and lows. But they completely and the point to being upsetting as far as how inconsistent they are. So you have a right to boo your team, but save it till the end result. Save it, or even at the end of a period. If they do something towards the end, it's just not, if they just completely tank a period, let them know you're unhappy, because that's kind of part of our job is to kind of, cheer for them when they're doing good, cheer for them when they're, not doing so hot, but at least they're putting effort, but then also voice your displeasure when they just can't seem to get it right, which right now they can't seem to get it right as far as holding a lead. But I do not overall disagree with what Taylor Hall said as far as, mid-game boos battling the fans. He's got a point.
He does have a point, but I mean, I feel like David Holiday kind of nailed it on the head on the Facebook group. It wasn't as if the crowd I'll be honest with you, at that Tampa Bay game, the crowd wasn't booing him or an individual situation. They weren't booing the power play. It's just frustration in the crowd, and you can feel it in the air. You could feel it between all the different fan, groupings throughout the entire stadium, that it wasn't like, hey, we're going to boo someone individual. It was like we're up 5-3, and all of a sudden it's 5-5, and it's just like, here we go again. And it's just, I don't think it was, you're saying like wait until the end result to start booing. I think it was just so frustrating as a fan. You're sitting there and you go through these roller coaster of emotions where you're like, hey, we were just up, we're just winning, we're sitting back, we're happy. Okay, now it's cut down to a 1-goal lead. Okay, here we go again, and it's like the same crap. And then it's like, if it happens once, you can let it go. No, I'm serious. Well, you get it, right? You can let it go, but if it happens multiple times, it's like, dude, it's frustrating. As a fan, it's frustrating, and I think that's where the booing came from. And don't get me wrong, and I've said this many, many times on this podcast, I'm one of the last people to boo your own team. Even when they're terrible and in tank, and they're getting blown out by a team they shouldn't get blown out by, I'm one of the last people that will boo. I will yell at other people for booing. I don't think it was individual basis. I think it was just frustration from the crowd. What do you think, Scotty?
Well, to be quite honest with you, I don't really have a problem with it on either side. To tell you the truth, I love, me. That's some top-notch healing by Taylor Hall right there. Putting the hand up, Ric Flair style. Oh man, I love it. I love it. I love it. But at the same time, we as fans, we have the right to boo when we're unhappy, and the Devils haven't given us a lot to be happy about this season yet. Do I agree that maybe the timing of it wasn't so good? Maybe you could say that. Yeah. But at the same time, we're fans. We're paying our hard-earned money to go in and buy tickets and support this team. And, in your frustrations, like you were saying, Scott, same old thing over and over again. When I was watching the games, I'm out here in LA, so I'm watching on TV. I was just basically like waiting for it. I was like, all right, when's it going to happen? You can sense it coming, sort of deal. So fans are completely in the right to be frustrated. And Taylor Hall, at the same time, I do believe he is our leading point scorer. He's about a point per game, So I think he's got the right to throw the hand up there and do a little top-notch healing there. And, we throw it right back, with those boos and stuff like that. So I don't know, it's kind of a testy relationship right now because, Devils fans, we should think about that old SNL skit. Remember, lowered expectations. Everybody went in, with guns ablaze, and the Devils are going to be, we're still a very young team. And, thinking on the bright side of things, we've only played 12 games. We've only played 12 games. The record is what, 3-5-3, right? Or is it 3-5-4? So we're not completely done yet. Do I have, expectations and dreams for this team? I don't know, but like, do I think they can maybe battle back into a borderline? Yeah, I could see that. Only 12 games played, as opposed to out west, where a lot of those Western Conference teams are up in the 15, 16, 17 games played already.
Yeah, true.
Scott, I think you nailed it right on the head. We came into the season, a lot of fans came in with a ton of expectations. I think the three of us included. So I think that's where a lot of the disappointment comes in, because a lot of moves were made, but then again, you bring in all these new guys, especially all these young guys. Yeah, it's going to take some time to gel. And I feel like we're a broken record saying it's going to take time to gel. It's going to take time to gel, which it does. And they have to find their way through some of these tough games. That's how these younger guys are going to learn how to play and how to win. I think there was higher expectations than needed to be, going from, go from, virtually last to, first is, almost is way too high of an expectation. To expect the possibility of getting one of those wild card playoff berths, I think that's still within the cards. But I think everyone thought that we were going to take this league by storm and just be, practically undefeated or unbeatable at this point. But there are still defensive deficiencies in this team. And those defensive deficiencies have yet to be really rectified. We can obviously score. How many 3, 4, 5, 6 spots have we put up? Quite a bit, quite often. So scoring is not an issue, except against the Flyers, the first game. But other than that, it's the defensive deficiencies, and whether it's the lack of concentration on D to where they can't hold the lead, which has been a problem for a while now, and that was just never addressed. I don't know if it's confident or lack of confidence of the goaltenders and their defensemen. I don't know if it's lack of confidence in the team and their goaltenders to where they start playing, gripping the stick a little tighter, wearing, oh no, they're going to let another one in. Is it just overall they don't trust each other defensively? Do they have to bring someone in that will just kind of solidify everything on the back? There's just that question is yet to be fully answered. And I think once that question is answered, we will do much better.
Yeah, not to go off the topic, but just a little bit. We look at the title of our show today is Look on the Bright Side, right? So Michael in the Facebook group brought up Nico's goal. I think first of all, his first of the season, you could see I think it's his first since I think he had a 24 goal game or a 24 game goalless streak. So to get Nico back on the board, Wayne Simmons getting his first goal over the weekend, over the last 2 games rather. There's a lot of positives that are still going on, right? Gusev sitting up in the box. I know a lot of people are freaking out about that, but that dude needs to learn the American game. He has to learn the defensive side of the game, and who better to sit with than Patrick Aliash? I mean, there's a lot of positives that are going on with this team. Jack Hughes is starting to put up points. I think he has 7 points in his last 3 games. There's a lot of really good things that are happening. The problem is like when the team is losing, all those good things get pushed to the side. And then all the little negative things like the Taylor Hall thing start to become glaring issues. And that's what sucks about it, because all those good things are what I can almost guarantee what the team is sitting around and they're trying to focus on, and what they're trying to rally behind is look at all the things we've done right. Look at all the things that we're doing right on a consistent in and out night basis. There's a lot of guys that are playing solid hockey that don't get the credit. Miles Wood had a monster game this past game. And I know there's been a lot of people that have been ragging on him and like his style of play and everything else. He had a monster game. I mean, PK Subban putting in a goal. That was a huge goal too. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that are starting to click with this team. I think Shorts Guy, you said it perfectly. Like defensively, if they can shore up some areas, and hell, I'm not trying to open a can of worms, but I kind of have to ask, do you trade Taylor Hall if he's not committing? Hey, I know. Listen, I'm just saying, do you trade Taylor Hall for a top-end defenseman if you can get it? Obviously, if the price is right, you would want to do something like that. And I know Nick Villano has said it, even sending him out to Colorado and getting a Byram back in return. So, listen, I think they're so close to being a consistent team. It's just, they got to shore up a few things. So I don't know. Do you trade Taylor Hall? That's my question to you guys. Do you trade Taylor Hall to possibly get someone in our defensive top 4 defensemen that could really shore up that back end?
You want to jump on this one first?
That's a great hat there, Short.
It's a fantastic hat.
That's a great hat.
I'm going out and I'm ordering one as soon as this show is done. All right. I'm ordering my Let's Go Devils podcast hat because I want one of those bad boys. And I'm sure everyone out there in the Facebook world wants it as well. I see the comments going.
Yeah, you got it. I can get that going ASAP. I am the merch director for the Let's Go Devils podcast. So
wait, hold on a second. I'm sorry. Jake Wakely just said that Shiro is expected to meet with Hall's agent Darren Ferris in Calgary per Elliot Friedman last night on Saturday night's headlines on Hockey Night in Canada. So if they're going to be meeting in Calgary, that's kind of interesting. But anyways, go on.
I'll start. I think if Hall is absolutely not going to sign, you move him before the trade deadline, or you somehow finagle a sign and trade, and you move him, you get assets back, and you bring in that top defenseman. If he is going to resign and he does want to commit here, he's an offensive threat. You may have to look at what your other options for trading are. If him being one of our top scorers, you really don't want to. It's tough to trade one of your top scorers. It is definitely tough to trade one of your top scorers. But I think Shiro has proven if the right trade becomes available, he'll make that trade. Whether it's a hero of the franchise or not. I think that if the right trade becomes available, it will happen. More so, I think if he's not going to sign long term, you absolutely trade him for some assets instead of letting him walk.
You don't want to get Tavares.
I think
exactly. You don't want to have a Tavares.
You want to get Tavares in the middle of nowhere.
Completely
but I think
screwed.
Right. I think that's exactly right. I mean, that's what you got to do. If he is really interested in re-signing here and re-upping and being, a cornerstone of the franchise for, a long time to come, then that's something you should definitely, we have to consider, obviously, as Ray would have to consider, because he is such a dynamic player, but if he is, wants to test free agency, which is his right to do it, you have to get assets for him. You cannot just let him walk and get nothing in return for him. Have to get something back. Of course, a defenseman is, what everyone wants and is what is really needed on the team, but you just cannot let him walk like that. It's just it would be unacceptable.
Well, it's funny because there was a minor trade the Devils made where they got Domingue from Tampa Bay for a conditional 7th rounder in 2021, and there was a lot of people that were questioning whether that move means that there's something else brewing behind the scenes. And I know there's been a lot of speculation that the Devils are super interested in Arizona goalie. God, what is his name? Ratnan? I can't freaking remember.
Ranta?
Jake Wakely. Ranta, yeah, right. So there's a rumor floating around that they're super interested in him. So my kind of speculation about Taylor Hall is I think this meeting, if I were Ray Shero, I'd put it this way. And I listen, who knows what the hell happens behind the scenes, because if we were making some of the moves, like we'd probably get shellacked by some other GM. And would be like, I traded away Taylor Hall, and it's like, who'd you get back? I got back Stu, the janitor. He's really good at mopping floors. And they're like, oh, you're an idiot. So who knows what he's talking about
Adam
behind the scenes. And his leg is still broken, guys. Come on, we gotta Andy Ranta. I can't pronounce his last name. Thanks, Jake. But anyways, if he's like done, if he's done, and sometimes you look at him on the bench, if you're watching the games, he just doesn't look engaged. He doesn't look like he's super pumped to be here. Losing does that, right? Losing is going to piss you off, and I can imagine like he's frustrated. If he goes into this meeting, or if his agent goes into the meeting with Ray, and he's basically like, yeah, I don't think he's going to be coming back. First of all, I could imagine Ray Shero, like sitting down like the Goodfellas, like, tell me straight, what is he going to do? I'm going to break your legs or something like that. But if he makes that decision, do you trade him immediately? Do you try to flip that now, or do you try to like say, all right, we'll let him hang around until the trade deadline? Because I would have figured you wanted to get rid of him now. Like, you want to get him out the door. If he's not happy, he's not going to sign. Get him out the door and try to get something for him right now, or do you wait until teams get desperate near the trade deadline?
I would say you wait till you're in a strength position. Taylor Hall is not someone you just want to give away. Like you want to make sure you're getting, but you want to make sure you're getting back. Hopefully more. Yeah, hopefully more than what is expected. So I'm gonna trust in Ray that he leads someone down that path, and they overpay for Taylor Hall. That's what we want. Someone to give up some prospects and maybe an NHL ready player as well. How much can we get for him? I would say definitely have to wait until we are in a power position to trade Taylor Hall.
Yeah, I completely agree. You don't want to panic sell, because teams will take advantage of that. You also want to, I said this before, if he doesn't want to be here, you'll just look them straight up, be like, all right, give me a list and let me start working. Mm-hmm. And you kind of make it as a kind of a conditional thing, like, listen, we have your list. We will do everything we can to get you to one of these teams. However, you need to start, getting yourself more valuable for a trade, so that they go to look for these teams on any possible list, so that, and at the same time, he's producing. So teams are going to want to give up more for producing Taylor Hall versus Taylor Hall, who looks disengaged, not doing well, and ready to leave. You want to make it look like you said, selling from a position of strength, and that him leaving is not because of him, because you've decided to move him on, and not because he just doesn't want to be there and he's sulking around.
So Christopher from the Facebook group just brought up a really solid point. Waiting also runs the risk of Hall getting hurt, and then we could be screwed. Which I totally agree that if because of his knee, you run that risk. So it's like I said, this is why we're not NHL GMs by any stretch. You know what I mean?
But on the flip side of that, there also may be a lot of teams that want to wait to make any kind of deal conditionally on if he can make it through a bunch of games without getting re-injured. So the market for Taylor Hall may not be for a while, because they want to see that knee is has healed properly and strong enough where he is going to last. Because no team, knowing that injury could happen again, is going to say, yeah, here's all the world that we have to give to you for Taylor Hall, just so that he can get injured on their watch. Teams are looking at that too. The other GMs are not stupid. They're not going to buy, potentially damaged merchandise until they see that it works.
And it could also be the other way around, where someone else gets hurt and a team needs to fill a gap with a Taylor Hall-esque type player.
Which then you would be getting a king's ransom for it.
Yes, that's what we want.
Yeah, you absolutely could.
Yeah, but then you got to think about it. I don't think that Ray Shero is going to wait until July 1st. So you have one of two scenarios, right? You have the trade deadline actually you have one of three, I suppose. You have the trade deadline, let's say, in the world of him getting traded. He either trades him now. They have this conversation in Calgary, if all of that's correct by Elliot Friedman. They have the conversation in Calgary. He basically says that, here's my list of teams. Try to figure it out. I want to get out of here. Ray makes a deal, makes a call. Within the next month, he's gone. So by Thanksgiving, which technically, I was reading somewhere, there's a lot of people that say in the NHL, not a lot of people like to make moves before the American Thanksgiving. So maybe that's when Ray Shero would possibly make that move, but who knows? Scenario 2, you wait until the trade deadline, or you wait until the end of the season, which is you're playing with fire at that point, because you could do a sign and trade, but then it's like that's not a guarantee. And you could get strung along and strung along and strung along. I just don't think Ray is that kind of GM where he's going to let that sit there and be like, all right, you know what, we'll work it out. We'll work it out. We'll work it out. And he's still thinking about it. And then come July 1st, he's like, nah, I changed my mind. I'm out of here. I don't think Shiro's going to let that happen. I think he's going to move him before that deadline. He probably has like a ticking clock in his head, and he's like, you know what? If we don't hit this date, boom, he's out.
Yeah, and if he's going to sign, if he's going to sign, then Ray Shero has to start looking at who he's going to move to shore up the defense. Maybe even include Taylor Hall in those conversations about, all right, so who should we bring in, that you would want to work with? Not to make Taylor Hall the centerpiece of the franchise to where everything's got to go through him. But if he is going to stay and resign, then they really have to start looking at, other players could potentially be on the move to get that defenseman in, which could, in a roundabout way, also make the rest of the team start playing better, knowing that the threat of trade is out there. And I just looked as you were talking, that Adam Henrique trade happened November 30th, right after Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm. So
my guess is we can see if he's not going to resign, like you said, for this year with Thanksgiving being so late, very beginning of December 1, 2, that's when we could potentially see any kind of move there, if that's going to be the case.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Oh, go ahead, Scotty.
No, I'm sorry. I was just reading some comments here on the old Facebook
yeah, same
chat.
The most commented Devils podcast, by the way. We'll just
That's right.
that
it is. and the flip side of this is too that maybe they have this conversation in Calgary, and Hall is like, you know what, I see things trending in the right direction, and I want to be here long term, and he ends up signing that long term deal, and then you get him, and then like, you know what, you just hope for you have to hope for the best, right? You hope that his knee holds out. You hope that he's not cancer in a locker room and one of those guys that's causing, ripples amongst other players, and that he's going to be supportive and a leader. He's shown that he could do that, especially with this team. If he felt dejected from Edmonton, he felt like he shouldn't have been traded in the first place. And then when he got here at first, he was miserable because he was here. And it didn't matter what here was. He was just miserable because he felt like he was scorned by, Edmonton. And then he started to embrace it. The year that they made the playoffs, he was, obviously what he did on the ice, he was the MVP, but he was also a very vocal leader in the locker room from what we understand. He was also a very present person on the team. And then it felt like there was the year after and then the year after that, and there was a disappointment, but he has the potential to be a very big-time leader on his team. And you know what? Point-wise, he showed, and he's showing how valuable he can be. So it could, listen, if he stays, that's great. Roll with him and be happy with it. Put your Hall jersey back on. Don't throw it in the fire pit. And if he leaves, you pray that Ray gets, a king's ransom for him. That's it. So it's one positive or the other positive.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's the best way to look at it. I'm trusting in Ray that this will get done and handled in the proper fashion. I'm hopeful.
Yeah, which I'm not looking too much into them meeting in Calgary, if I can talk, as anything harbinger of any kind of news. Just maybe where schedules line up where they can meet in person versus over the phone. Looking in the group. Where to go? I was going to address something about
Everybody's talking about Sammy Vatanen right now. I love Sammy Vatanen, by the way. Speaking of that,
Sammy Vatanen, I had mentioned over the summer, possibly the bringing in of PK Subban was to take some limelight off of Jack Hughes, as becoming his number one draft pick, so that he's not completely blinded by the spotlight. But a friend of mine, Jeff, and I were talking as he was refereeing our game the other day. So shout out to Jeff Turner for bringing this up, which I never thought about this. Could Subban have been brought in to take the limelight off of to kind of steal the spotlight. So a player like Sammy Vatanen could have a much better season and could develop more, which Vatanen has been having a great season this year. Well, I don't know about maybe great, but he's been playing a lot better, and maybe take some of the stress off of him as being the top guy. And now he's sharing that load with PK Subban, so that could be a possibility as well.
Well, seeing Severson out there on the top line, I think Sammy in that reduced role, I think, has been great for him. Great for him. His play has increased, I think, this season so far, and seeing him out on the power play as well has been very good. He's been moving the puck, although I still get so frustrated with that drop back pass. Like sometimes I feel they're just we have to do it. Like the whole thing stops. The whole play stops. It's like wait, guys, we have to drop it back right now. Hang on. I hate that play. Sometimes it works, but not every single time. So, but other than that, Sammy's play has been very, very good in the past 2 weeks.
Ramona, I have a question for one of our Facebook friends. Sorry, Ramona wants to bring up Papaganov from the AHL level. I have to give a shout out to our good friend Jake Wakely for bringing up my main man, who I haven't talked about at all really this year, Mr. Mikey McLeod, and how fantastic he's doing down in the AHL. Bring him up. Get Rooney out of here. Get Hayden out of here. Bring Mikey McLeod up here. Let him do some damage. Let's go already.
Why have you never mentioned this guy before?
I've never heard of him. Who is he?
Yeah, I've never heard his name either.
Tell us, Scott. Tell us.
Some dude with a great tape job, like the nicest tape job you ever see.
The only way he's allowed,
like he's a profesh.
The only way for him to get called up is if he tapes his stick like a professional, not like a disaster. I don't know why that bothers me, but it just bothers me. Ugh. Anyway,
but Rooney. The thing about Rooney is he has been killing penalties, and he's been good in the face-off circle too. I was glad to see Hayden get taken out of the lineup. Nothing against John, no offense, but I think I know he's gonna trash me next time. Just pummel me. I'm gonna be turtle shell like Claude Lemieux, back in the day. But I was happy to see. I was happy to see Jesper Boquist, get into the lineup. He had a nice opportunity, though. I think he needs to improve his play still. I think that will grow. But someone had mentioned it way back on the chat here. Moving Wayne Simmons down to that fourth line created. It was more like now they can actually rotate four lines a little bit better. And I felt more confidence in that line going out there. And Miles Wood. This is the best game I've seen from Miles Wood, the Carolina game, in probably since his rookie year. He looked like that old Miles Wood, crashing and banging, getting that dirty goal with I believe it was Butcher who shot wide and it came off the backboards there and right back out to him. But he was in the right position, and when you get in those positions like that, pucks will start to find you instead of us finding the puck. So. I was really impressed with that. I can't remember who mentioned it actually in the chat, but someone said that Simmons on the fourth line. I thought that was a great move. And Wayne also, now that he scored, you could just see there's a fire in him that's was turned on this last two games.
Well, that last game where Wayne Simmons basically stepped up and was challenging half of the Carolina Hurricanes at one point. I mean, it was like that's the Wayne Simmons that I signed up for. Scoring a dirty goal in front. Where he got that, it was a typical Wayne Simmons type of goal, and then he goes out and he's jawing in somebody's face. I was like, dude, hell yeah! I mean, like, there was a quote. I don't know if it exactly, and I don't know if it was the Carolina game or if it was the game before, where they were talking about in either in the game or leading up to the game. Cangelosi and Danico were talking about it, where they were like, Wayne Simmons. It was against the Flyers because Voracek was talking about how in the locker room Simmons was the guy that would held everybody accountable, would pump everybody up, would get in your face if you screwed up, or like if you're getting down on yourself. And they asked him about it, and Simmons was like, "They're like, do you do that in the Devils locker room?" He's like, "Not yet." He's like, "I don't know, I don't have a good feel of the team yet, where I can tell who I can push or who I can, do that with, or what I have to do." So. just think about it. If he starts clicking, this is like the bright side of it, right? If he starts clicking and there's so many little things that he could do on and off the ice, I think I just feel like the season's going to start to turn around. Things are going to start going our way. Mackenzie Blackwood, it looks like, I think by all accounts, he's the number one. I don't know if you disagree with this, Shorts guy, but I feel like, well, not just play-wise, but I think confidence-wise from the coaching staff. He just played a back-to-back, right? Typically, they would have split those two up. He played a back-to-back on a travel, which made it even more interesting. So, Shorts guy, I don't know if you agree with this, but do you think that Mackenzie Blackwood has now fully taken that number one spot?
I think by what we've seen, it seems that, the coaching staff is making him the number one. Not only confidence in him, but the coaching staff may see a confidence in the team in front of him versus in the confidence with Corey Snyder. I do like the fact that Corey Snyder, if Blackwood is the absolute number one right now, that means that the backup is a proven NHL goaltender that's going to push himself and then push Blackwood to be better, which, having this goaltending trade that we made this week, which makes you think that either A, they want to bring in a third person to challenge the two of them, or B, I think you mentioned it this week when we were talking off air, is this the trade before the trade? Like a piece that we're bringing in order to either move or to have there to see somebody be moved. So I don't know, but for all the signs that we see going as is, it seems like Blackwood is the goaltender of choice by the coaching staff, which I was going to bring this up, but I couldn't find the comment, so I can't credit whoever asked this. Talking about shoring up the defense, what about the goaltending? You shore up the defense, and then the goaltending will also be shored up, because you got to have that trust between the defenseman and the goaltenders to know that.
Yep.
All right, if one sneaks behind you, you have your defenseman right there on the goal line to help shovel it out of there so that it doesn't go in. You have your defensemen that are confident in your goaltenders behind them, so if they do push and make that mistake, the goaltender will save them. It all works together. A goaltender can certainly help you win the game, but the goaltender can't score the goals too on the other side. But it looks like Blackwood right now is the starter. So let's see how many more games in a row he gets. I believe we play Tuesday next. This is that Western swing coming up. So we'll see what happens on this week of travel, which, with a win like they had yesterday, a week of travel like this could be fantastic for the team. You get them out of New Jersey. You get them around nobody but themselves. Their family's not around. What's up?
Away from the booing, apparently.
Oh, no. They'll be booing, but it'll be a different type of booing to where you want to create those boos when you're in that opposing arena. You're looking at Tuesday, Winnipeg, Thursday at Calgary, Friday at Edmonton. If Blackwood gets all of those games, and then Sunday away at Vancouver as well, if Blackwood gets all those games, and he's the absolute starter. If they throw Corey in there for one, you still call Blackwood the starter. If they split those games, he's still the 1A versus the 1B. But as of right now, I got to say he's probably the starter.
Do you remember game number one, that first period and a half, Corey Schneider in there, throwing the glove out? Unbelievable. And then some cramps happened, and it just looks like he's not been the same person ever since. Blackwood has got to be the number one right now. There's no way around it. That Tampa Bay game, I know the defense kind of hung Corey out there on a couple of them, but there was a couple that he should have had there that were just kind of bad goals that he let up. So Blackwood, we'll see how many games he does start, but I would say for the near future, and it's a good thing. Let's see what we got with this kid. We have him now. Let's throw him out there and let's see what he's got. He's excelled at the different stages of the minor leagues, but it seems to have taken him a while before he found his groove. So let's see what happens here. If he does get this, this Western trip, if he starts all of them or if he starts the majority of them. Let's see how he does, and if he does find his game. And going back to when Chico was on the show a few weeks ago, you can see when he's out, he's so big. He cuts down those angles. When he is that step out instead of the step back, he really cuts down and he stops a lot of those shots, and he just gets in the way from his massive size. And it's something you can completely see in the different games. When he is out in the front of that crease, he is so much more impactful in the game than when he's falling back and just letting those shots go in. It's not like he's obviously letting them go in, but it's just when you fall back and you don't have that confidence, it hurts his play.
Yeah, honestly, there's a lot of people saying, Michael just said in the Facebook group, Corey played, like you just said, played excellent in that first game until he got hurt, and then he came out and he hasn't been the same since. That trade for Domingue, I know there's a lot of people, even on the NHL Network, Kevin Weeks was kind of saying, could this be a preemptive move? Are you bringing in somebody with Domingue who has NHL experience, who put up some really good games, obviously with Tampa Bay last year? So I think I could have been in net and won 26 games in a row or whatever the hell he did. But I mean, honestly, is that a move that is possibly leading to something else, something bigger? Is there a move down the pipeline where you see somebody like Corey get moved and Domingue comes up, and then Blackwood is your number one? I feel like if they keep going with him, like Shorts Guy said, it's going to really kind of show if they go with all 3 games in the Western Conference swing, or the Western Canadian swing. If they go all 3 games of Blackwood, I feel like that is the nail in the coffin that this kid is our goaltender. And you as fans are going to have to live with the fact that you have a $6.5 million backup, because you know what? That's just the way it shakes out sometimes. You're going to have guys that are going to be overpaid that don't live up to their contracts. And you know what? It sucks. But hey, you could be a Ranger fan and have it happen all the time and get used to it. Or you could just sit there and say, oh, well, at least we have Blackwood. Sorry.
Yeah, and that's and that's the most frustrating thing with this, because you look at what Corey can do in that first game, and you look at that and you say, yeah, that's the guy we want to see, and then it goes away. So that's the most frustrating thing with Snyder is that skill and that ability to win a game like that, and the play the way he did is there. It's just we haven't seen it consistently as much as I would love to see that. But I don't know if Blackwood has definitely not shown that consistency either. And it feels like for the last, since Brodeur, the whole Brodeur Snyder thing, we brought Snyder in. Since then, I feel like we have not had a consistent starting goaltender. It's always been kind of going with the hot hand. And we've never had that presence in net, which coming in after Brodeur was going to be hard, regardless, for anyone. Yep. And unfortunately, it seems like Corey Snyder seems to be the guy that was given that opportunity. And there's just no way that he's going to replace
and there's
Brodeur.
a goat.
Yeah. That's so hard to replace someone like Brodeur. But I just feel like we've not had that consistent difference maker in net like we want. And you see flashes of it in Corey. We saw flashes of it in Kincaid. We had all these possibilities, but just no one has stuck around. No one has cemented themselves as that number one that we all want to see, because that's the one thing Devils fans are used to is consistency in net. We had it for the longest time. Not a lot of teams have that consistency in net, and even though we like to joke about them, the Rangers have also had that consistency in net as well, which, as much as we loved seeing that goal that Henrique scored, Lundqvist has been their guy in net for a very long time. So you at least have to give him that credit. We have not found that new guy to be that consistent starter in net, to be that difference maker, that the team will rally around and build out from the back. That's what I want to see one of these two guys, if they're going to remain our goaltenders, do. Step up, be that guy. That's what you need to do in order to become the official out-and-out starter. And if this trade this week is just one of the moves that's going to be there to ship, possibly maybe ship Snyder out if someone's going to take that contract, which is the hardest thing to move him, is that contract that he's got. And you mentioned it. You don't want your backup making $6 million. That's not what you want. But at the same time, who's going to take an injury-prone goaltender right now like Corey Snyder that's not showing consistency anymore? But a change of scenery could also cause him to be that guy again, and just somewhere else could do it. But before you were to move him, I want to see Blackwood become that guy.
Yeah, making the big save when we need the big save. You don't have to be Marty, and I don't think anybody's ever going to be Marty, especially for the Devils, but just somebody that you have consistency with. And if you look around the NHL, starting goaltending is not something that you can find on on an everyday roster. And there's a lot of teams that have goaltending issues, or, you think they have the guy and they don't have the guy. And there's a lot of big name goaltenders that do a lot of great things during the regular season. Carey Price being one of them. And you have these guys that are great, but then they never come through in the clutch in the playoffs and stuff like that. So to be honest with you, there's a lot of hope in what, Blackwood could become. But at the same time, I don't know, man. I feel like you said, if we shore up the defensive end of it, if we can tie up some of those loose ends, it will help Corey. It will help Mackenzie, and then after a while, it won't matter who we have in goal. And then you could have them switching back and forth, and then they can start getting their confidence back, and then they can start making the save that they haven't been making lately, because they know if they make the save and they leave a rebound out, that there's not going to be two dudes that are uncovered that are going to be sitting there waiting to put the puck in the net. Give them the confidence by having at least a solid defenseman in front of them. And who knows what they have to do to get that defenseman.
Yeah, it's a team game, and the team builds around each other, and you need everyone firing on all cylinders in the right direction, and you get that confidence, and that's what you need. That's what you want. And confidence and winning breeds more winning and more confidence, and that continues to build and build and build. I mean, look what happened when St. Louis started to win last year in January. Look where it got them. Not to say that we're going to do that.
What was the one major thing that they did? What was the one major thing that they did that led them onto that second half?
Goaltending changed.
Goaltending.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo.
They put their trust. One of their goaltenders stepped up. And that's what we need. We need a goaltender, one of our two goaltenders to step up. Someone, stepped up in a time of need, in a desperate time where it seemed to be everyone, the position was anyone's to get. And someone in the Facebook group brought up, and I don't know how to pronounce his name yet, so I apologize, but bring up the new goaltender we got.
Deming.
Bring him up. Yeah, Deming. Bring him up. Have him in practice, pushing the other two, so that they know that what, come game night, they could be the third man out, sitting from the stands. Keep him there.
But that's such a weird thing to carry three goaltenders. I don't know if it's ever been really done.
No, it has.
Matt, you're right. Nico has
back in the day, it was done.
Yeah, back in the day it was done, and who's to say you can't do that again?
Yeah.
Have that guy in the background, have that guy pushing the other two. Yeah, I know you want him to see some shots in game action, but bring him up, push the other two.
Agreed. And Matt, yes, Nico has been playing much better. That's actually one of the positives that has been going on. Is it seems like Nico has gotten his stride back, and that injury is behind him, and he seems to that early season rust seems to be coming off. That was a hell of a move he threw out there yesterday.
Woo, they should have put that
baby
in a man.
Because it was filthy.
I watched that. I watched that one like scrambled porn when I was, but I mean, honestly, that was not the date.
It's free on the internet, Scott. All right.
Nowadays, yeah. I think it's more exciting to watch it scrambled if you want my opinion.
Reminds me of being a
What is
kid.
that, a boob? No, it's an elbow. Oh, all right. But honestly, like, like we said, the bright sides of the things, Nico, Jack with that goal last night, what a heads up play where he reaches into Hughes reaches into the crease, basically does a Henrique and pulls the puck and just and shovels it in for a goal. Super heads up play. He's starting to click. Nico hopefully is starting to click. This team getting better. Simmons getting his first goal. Blackwood getting the confidence of the coaching staff. Listen, build on the positivity, right, boys?
Positivity.
So you can't build on the negative. You got to build on the positive, and we're starting to move in that direction, which is good. So here's hoping that let's see what happens in this Western swing. Let's build on that win on Saturday and move forward.
Indeed. I don't know if it's one of us that should say it, but I thought Sam was going to come on out of the blue, the ghost of Sam Wu, and do the sign off.
It's hard to be a closer. It's hard to be a closer on this podcast, right?
I'm not calling you Mariano.
I'm kind of like the New Jersey Devils. I'm having trouble closing this thing out, But you know what? It's a new month. It's definitely a new month. 3 out of 4 points in the month of November. You're going to the Peg for a little revenge of what they did to the Devils on opening night. Well, just want to give a shout out to all the Devils fans that I met up with down in Raleigh, North Carolina. It was a great night. It was a great Devils victory. I'm 3-0 with the Penn State hat on, watching the Devils, so I'm going to keep that streak alive against the Peg. Also, the pop-up podcast that we did in the parking lot, we met some great fans there as well. That was really cool. And one last thing to plug, State of the Fan address this Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll be back then.
Hey, I want to say, I want to say safe travels to any of the Devils, any Devils fans traveling to Winnipeg with the Devils fan club. So, safe travels and have fun in Winnipeg to anyone going up there.
Yeah, totally. And I just want to point out that I did travel to the future the other day. I did see that the Devils were going to beat the Hurricanes. I posted that on Twitter before the game, and then sure enough, I came back with the knowledge and the dubs. So I'm gonna have to jump in my DeLorean and see what they're gonna do in Winnipeg. But I have a strong feeling that the winning is gonna continue, boys. It's a new season. I'm
for it. I'm all for it.
All right.
That's your final thought, Scott? Is just all right.
It's my turn now.
Yeah, it's your turn.
I'll go Raider style. Just win, baby. Just win, baby. And play some defense. Damn it.
And play some damn deep.
All right, boys. Great podcast. See you next Wednesday. Stay fan address. Till next time. Let's go Devils.